Version 2.0 livestream ended a few hours ago, and I think we can all agree that it was a really good livestream, right? Pretty much one of the best anniversary patches that we had in a really long time. My expectations, they were like super low because, you know, the first anniversary overall, they usually just feel like another patch. You don't feel like rewarded or anything at all, but ZZZero 2.0 looks amazing both in terms of rewards, content, and changes as well, question mark, you know. Because I am not fully satisfied with some of these changes, some of these things also concerns me a little bit, and I'm going to try to break down everything in this video. This is going to be a pretty long video, of course, like I'm not going over all the yapping and stuff. The whole live stream went for like 1 hour and 10 minutes. It was a really long one. But overall, let's, for example, focus on the agents. I think that this is a really important topic that you probably want to understand, right? On the first half, we're getting Yi Xuan, which brings a new attribute and also a new class. That's definitely a new class, okay? It's not like Auric Ink, which is just Ether 2.0, you know, just like Miyabi and Frost, which is just Ice 2.0. Well, Yi Xuan with Auric Ink is going to be exactly the same thing. And for the rerun, we are getting Astra. This one was a huge surprise for me. In case you haven't watched my reaction to this live stream, I compiled like the best moments and posted earlier today. So we're going to be linking in the top right corner. You can check it later if you want. For the A ranks, we are getting Yinhu on the very first half. Yinhu is a pretty good defender unit. They are kind of changing a little bit of how defender looks and feels, because Yinhu feels way more like a kind of damage dealing defensive unit. Don't worry, I'm going to be breaking down his kit as well. And also Pulcra really good off-field stunner unit. For the second half, we're getting Fufu, fire stunner, and also Caesar, which is kind of concerning, but I was already expecting Caesar because of, you know, Yinhu, which was going to be available in the very first half since it was teased alongside Yi Xuan. And for the A ranks in the second half, we're getting Ben and Corin. I don't know exactly why Ben is here, but well, okay. Corin probably because, well, you know, Fufu is a stunner unit, so we're just including an attacker here in case you want some extra damage, things like this. They always do things like this. These are going to be the banners, and now let's talk a little bit about Yi Xuan because there's plenty of things to talk about. And also, I'm not exactly super satisfied. You can see here that she's going to bring a new attribute, a new class, and also there's this icon here, just like, you know, Void Hunter stuff. But in case of Yi Xuan, she's a Grandmaster. And about the attribute, as I said, is going to be Ether 2.0. I'm not so sure if Auric Ink Corruption can disorder on top of Ether Corruption, because this is something that happens, for example, on Miyabi, but it's mentioned on her core. It's not mentioned on the Frost attribute itself. So depending on how Yi Xuan core works, it could trigger disorders, it could not trigger disorders. But basically, it's just corruption stuff, nothing changes here. Then we have this Rupture thing, which honestly, I am not that happy with the fact that we're getting a new class. I honestly don't think that we had to get a new class this early, and it feels kind of empty, you know. The whole thing about Rupture units feels a little bit empty. Rupture units, they are kind of specialized with this sheer force thing, but it doesn't seem like it's exclusive to them. Based on the translation here of the special program, they basically say that sheer force is like a new stat, and Rupture agents, they can convert a part of their attack into sheer force. And what exactly is this sheer force thing? Well, sheer force is pretty much a stat, like a damage scaling stat, that allows your damage to completely ignore the enemy defense. I'm planning to work on a full damage guide video, you know, not only just talking about penetration, because yes, sheer force, if they decided to apply this to other agents besides Yi Xuan, because they can, like as I said, the wording here means that sheer force is a new stat, not exactly tied to Yi Xuan or Rupture agents, just the conversion part from attack to sheer force. And if they add this to other units besides Yi Xuan, sheer force makes penetration, flat penetration bros, penetration ratio disc, you know, on disc 5, and also defense shred or defense ignore buffs, they are completely pointless. For Yi Xuan, for example, this means that Nicole with her defense shred is not going to increase Yi Xuan damage. Penetration, flat rolls, no increase in damage, and of course, Trigger with her signature also no increase, but of course Trigger can run other standard engines such as Yi, for example, for some increased damage as well on Yi Xuan. Because the whole kit of Yi Xuan, as they said here, is based on sheer force. Yi Xuan also gets sheer force based on her HP, but once again, this is like something tied to Yi Xuan. It's not tied to Rupture units. It's not like every single Rupture agent is going to scale on HP. They state here on the special program, you can see the subtitles right here, that Yi Xuan will be able to increase her sheer force based on her maximum HP. So it's like Yi Xuan scales on HP, it's not Rupture agents, it scales on HP. That's exactly why I don't like Rupture as a new class, because it feels empty. We are getting like a new stat, and we kind of make this stat scale well with this new class. And then we are also making Yi Xuan get this new stat based on something else, in this case HP. They could simply add sheer force, Yi Xuan scaling sheer force on her HP, and still keep her as an attacker unit. They decided to release a new class for no reason at all. I honestly don't like this thing. I don't like this thing because it just makes agents more limited in terms of what team compositions you can play around, instead of making agents a good pool for a lot of different scenarios. They kind of force you to play around Rupture right now. You're going for Yi Xuan, okay, so you need to look for Rupture supports, you know? You shouldn't look for just good supports overall. We're getting like one in the Battle Pass, one craftable A rank engine, and also a B rank one. But no S rank, the only one is the limited one. Basically, I'm not a huge fan of Rupture, it feels a little bit empty. I don't think they should have added something like this that early to the game. There are a lot of other things that they could work on top of it, for example, defender units, that they kind of keep losing their identity. And I feel that Yinhu just keeps proving this even further, because defenders... What exactly are defenders? Support units? Well, Yinhu is more of a damage dealer, but also a support unit that can be played on a quick swap playstyle, and a lot of things. You know, we don't have a good identity for defender units. When it comes to Yi Xuan, I'm not going to dive that deep into her kit because they didn't give like a lot of details. Yes, we have a lot of animations. We don't have a lot of skill descriptions. You know, they usually put a lot of skill descriptions here on the screen, talking about the additional ability, the core, EX special, and other things. This time we didn't have this. We have a lot of animations, but the explanation is just happening like while they are talking here. But it's everything like, oh, you can deal damage, you can trigger perfect dodge when doing this, you can gather enemies. It's just things like this. I highly recommend you giving a watch to the special program, or just watching the gameplay video from IGN, because I think that the best way for you to get information on her kit is by waiting until the early access videos, where a lot of content creators will be covering this one. So just wait a little bit, okay? But basically speaking, the whole idea is to make Rupture units kind of be both offensive and also a unit that is capable to survive itself on the field. Isn't this like defenders? That's exactly my huge problem, you see? They could simply make Yi Xuan as a defender. And look at this, she has a parry animation. So why not just make her a bit of a defender unit that can actually play as a DPS? You know, it could be like way better than we rework defender units to give a little bit of an extra identity to them. Because Rupture feels, I don't know, there was no reason to Rupture. I'm going to keep saying this for a while, and I hope my mind changes the more Rupture agents they keep releasing, but overall, I'm not a huge fan. But enough talking. I think that the most important stuff here that I can actually showcase when it comes to Yi Xuan is the fact that she has two different ultimates. You can see here that once this bar here, her resources bar, is full, you get a different icon right here. You see, it just transformed right here. And another really important thing when it comes to this ultimate, you're going to watch this one. I should actually move my cameras just so you can see. And see right here. Let me run back a little bit. You're watching this one. So Yi Xuan is on the middle of her ultimate animation, right? And the thing here is that you can quick swap away. You get a quick assist prompt in the middle of Yi Xuan ultimate animation. This is like her second ultimate, not the Decibel one. This was the ultimate using her resources. If you use the ultimate from Decibels, you're going to see that the assist prompt here, it doesn't exist. Look at this. It's like grayed out because that's how ultimate usually works. But Yi Xuan on ultimate, you can do quick swaps with this. I think this is like the only thing you can actually get from here in terms of gameplay mechanics. But outside of this, everything is like, oh, you deal damage, or you can trigger perfect dodge, or you deal more damage, and things like this. Nothing huge. Next up, let's talk about Yinhu, because it's going to be a physical defender, and honestly, one of my favorite units out of all the 2.0, both on how they designed Yinhu, both on the character itself, and also the character kit. Because despite being a defender, you actually have a huge DPS damage dealing vibes on Yinhu. Like, look at this, it's like heavy hitting stuff, heavy hitting punches. I love this. But you can see here, for example, that Yinhu triggers a quick assist whenever he uses his EX special. So I love this. It also works, for example, just like Seth, which makes like you use the charged attack on Seth, then you can trigger a quick assist back to the previous unit. So that's exactly what's happening here. You can see that Yi Xuan is the character that is going to enter the field, and whenever you use your EX special, you also get these resources over there. These resources allows Yinhu to use a special attack that deals some extra damage. Probably it doesn't specify here, except for the additional ability thing that makes like enemies under this debuff to take increased damage over time. So this is really interesting. Some other things that they mentioned here on Yinhu. He's going to be pretty much a unit that is meant to be used alongside Yi Xuan, because as you can see, you gain sheer force, you know, the same thing again, based on a percentage of Yinhu attack. So you stack attack, and he's going to provide support potential while also being able to do some heavy punches on the enemy. I love this kind of thing. I feel that this is the kind of thing that we should actually expect from defender units overall. You know, heavy hitting but slow stuff. They're still giving some support potential to them by doing this. I like it, but I kind of feel that it's still not fully, you know, the identity of defenders is still a little bit diluted. You don't know exactly what they are meant to be. Because Caesar, for example, she's way more a stunner than a damage dealing unit, you know. So this is like the core passive, and then we have the additional ability that I mentioned. One thing that you're going to notice here is that when Yinhu swaps back to Yi Xuan, he keeps triggering like the punches, the touch of that thing, while Yi Xuan is on the field. Like, take a look at this. So Yinhu stays on the field using his resources while Yi Xuan is the one you're controlling. That's pretty cool stuff, and kind of promotes the idea of having multiple units on the field, because that's what the game is kind of going towards too. You know, this is something that I mentioned a few months ago. ZZZero, after each update, it keeps getting the feeling that you shouldn't play around a single unit. You should play around team compositions, right? And this is the kind of thing that this whole 2.0 units they are giving to us. The idea of playing around a team composition and a lot of different units at the same time. His unit is quite interesting because not only it deals damage, but it's also another unit that is going to be adding healing to the game. I think it's okay, not gonna lie. Like Yinhu he's not going to provide a shield, unlike other defenders, so instead of providing shields, Yinhu is providing a healing boost. But then, once again, so far, defenders buffs, they are based on the character shield. You know, if you have the shield, you have a buff for your character. Yinhu breaks this. Defenders keep losing identity. I love Yinhu as a damage dealing defender unit, but I don't like how diluted the identity of defenders feels right now. I don't know. I think Hoyo needs to fix their stuff when it comes to what we already have in the game instead of releasing new classes. I mentioned before that I don't think that Fufu was going to compete with Lighter, because Lighter is pretty much a huge specialized stunner unit for fire and ice characters. And pretty much everything that they showcased here shows that Fufu is meant to be a more generalist stunner instead of a specialized stunner. So Lighter is still the best one for fire and ice units, that's for sure. But we have some cool information actually. For example, despite Fufu not being in the field, you can see that her popcorn pop still attacks enemies, you know, despite Fufu not being here. You know, it keeps generating resources for her, by the way. And you can generate resources by doing a lot of different moves, such as assist follow-ups, EX specials, I believe chain attack as well, I can't remember, and the ultimate all generates like half of the bar for you. And this bar is quite interesting because if you take a closer look here, you're going to see that Fufu triggers a bit of a follow-up slash aftershock attacks on some, like when the ball hits the enemy and it has like at least half of this resource bar, is going to trigger an aftershock attack. Take a look at this. There you go, and then it hits again. There you go, another aftershock attack. You know, this fire prompt in the middle of the screen. So this is really, really interesting. Basic attack stuff, it kind of reminds of Yi, for example, but I wouldn't say that Fufu is an on-field stunner like Yi, for example. Unless the days numbers on these skills are like super low and she's really meant to be played on the field, I feel that she can play both on-field and off-field without a problem. And a lot of other fun moves, such as this one. This one, like, not gonna lie, it feels like just a for fun move and definitely not a meta move or something, but it's still super, super fun to see. And once again, you can see that every single time that the ball hits and it has enough resources, it triggers an aftershock attack. That's pretty cool stuff, and she has some really interesting things, such as you can see here that we have a 4,000 decibels. That's because she has some interactions that triggers when you have an attacker or rupture agents on your team. You get like increased decibel cap, and whenever these attacker or rupture agents use their ultimates, you get some extra decibels. You're going to see it right here. They showcase a bit on the actual combat stuff. So here, Cirza is going to use her ultimate and is going to stay at 1000 because it just wasted 3000s, right? There you go. It's still on 1000. Then when you swap to Evelyn, you're going to notice that instead of starting at 1000, it's going to start at 1250. So this means that Fufu gives a 250 decibels for units that stays on the field. Take a look at this. Evelyn is going to use her ultimate. There we go. And then instead of starting at 1000, it's a 1250. So that's 250 decibels that Fufu can give for your attacker or rupture agents if she's on your team and whenever they use their ultimate. And the last thing is that whenever you use her chain attack, you give a buff to all other agents on your team that gives crit damage and chain attack and ultimate. So she's pretty much super generalist because of stuff giving like specific things such as fire damage, remove fire resistance for the enemy. No, Fufu just gives crit damage. Pretty much any crit based DPS unit can use this. If you don't play like fire and ice units, you know, you don't focus too much on those two attributes, then Fufu might actually be a better pick for you than lighter. Okay, and the last thing that I want to talk about is about the gameplay itself, because you probably see that there's a lot of changes on the gameplay since the 1.0 all the way to the 2.0. We had, for example, the TV mode, right? Like, not gonna lie, yes, I like the TV mode, but I also can't deny that the way they made the TV mode and how it was used inside of the game, it was not one of the best uses of the TV mode. Arpeggio event that we had in the 1.1, 1.2, I can't remember, I think it was 1.2. It was really, really bad. It was super boring, and oh my god, I love this NPC, by the way. I love this one. The screen crashed yesterday because of her, but okay. Let's focus on the gameplay itself. Don't know exactly how to feel about the gameplay changes that we're getting, because right now you can see, for example, we have a mini map on the screen, and that's because the gameplay is changing. Right now we don't have like only maps with the city and also the maps where you do your exploration. You know, you don't go back to HDD and start doing your exploration over there, your commission over there. Right now, there's kind of a bit of an open world feeling on it, and you can explore the map, and then you can go into more dangerous areas and have combat stuff in some areas, you know? So now you kind of have to explore the map, not like in the same way we had back in the 1.0 all the way to what we still have in 1.7, you know? It's like smaller maps, and there's a bit of a chest here and there, but it's like so easy for you to find. You find it in a few minutes and that's it, it's over. Right now they're adding some extra exploration feature, and I'm not saying that this is like a bad thing. It just depends on the scale of the map and how much they're willing to put, you know, content on the exploration. Because I'm saying this as someone who loves ZZZero exactly because it's not an open world game. I don't want to play an open world game. This is not what I signed up for ZZZero. I still feel that the combat is amazing. I have a lot of fun with the combat in ZZZero. So I don't think they are changing this core combat stuff, and I'm still going to have a lot of fun with it. But if they focus way too much on the exploration, things like this, what you're seeing, I may not feel that satisfied anymore. So I really hope they can find a good balance between these changes on the exploration, the changes in the gameplay, and while also keeping, the combat being the focus of the game. I like the commission stuff. There were some commissions where you had to do things like this. You have a map to explore while you also have all the story happening. So yeah, this is totally fine. But depending on the scale of the map that they are looking forward to bring into the game, I may not enjoy it anymore. We had in the 1.4 or 1.5, it was 1.4, the Pale Wasteland event, it was like pretty cool stuff. We have all the puzzles to work on it and also explore the map while also having some combat stuff. That's a good thing. If they are doing things on this level, I'm totally fine with it. If they make a lot of huge open world, but also feels super empty just to give you some extra chests for you to find out, I will not like it. Okay, so this is like just my few thoughts. On the combat experience, you can see that they keep adding like bosses with new mechanics. This one, for example, you have a lot of parry windows, defensive assist. As you can see here, I'm not gonna lie, this is super fun. I like the idea of adding new mechanics to the enemies where you need to play around if you want to get the maximum score, if you want to get a good score, or just want to kill the enemy, whatever it is, Because just bring that dealing damage, it's not fun. It's not fun, So having enemies where you need to understand how it works is way better than just increasing the power level of units and things like this. So I like this, despite being a kind of stall boss because it's just defensive assist, defensive assist, defensive assist. It is still mechanics, you need to play around it. So I like this kind of thing and really hope that Hoyo can keep delivering on the combat side as they still deliver up to today. I just don't know exactly how to feel when it comes to the exploration side. That's all my thoughts when it comes to the gameplay changes. I can understand the feeling of the community of being a little bit dissatisfied or have some concerns on top of it. I totally understand, and as I said, I also have this feeling. But I feel that as long as it like Pale Wasteland levels of map, it's totally fine. And as long as we keep getting good stuff on the combat side as well, we're eating good. One last thing that I want to talk about is about the Ellen changes that we're getting. I love the fact that they are using HoloZero, to test some stuff. They are not only giving a way for players to have fun with the game, with new stuff, but the fact that they used the HoloZero buffs to increase Ellen power, and this is what we're getting in the 2.0, it feels really good. I don't mind having a training ground, a beta test thing for the players, to actually play the game and see how they feel with the character. I also love this change. I feel that more characters should get this kind of change. Having 3 requirements or so, because it adds a lot of flexibility for the character. The way that Ellen was designed before, you had to use like faction or attribute. So this means that pretty much faction and attribute, okay, that's Lycon. And when it comes to attribute, it needs to be Sokaku. You need to have one of these units. So by changing this to stun, you can now, for example, get Lighter. Lighter is running right now as you are watching this video, and you can get a lot of value from Lighter to Ellen. I would love to get, this potential thing on other units as well. Let's say Yi is the next one. I still feel that Yi is overall totally fine. Ellen was super hurt with the direction change that the enemy had. Enemies were like super aggressive. Ellen dodge counter sucks, and now by adding all these things, you get some good stuff. So they decided to make it like this. It's a toggle button. You just press the button and you're going to get this extra stuff. I mentioned on my video that they could probably just change the core as well to apply the crit buff to other stuff. And look at this, we're getting the dash attacks, ultimate, basic attack, icy blade, which is just getting on the new kit. Super cool stuff that they decided to expand the crit damage stuff as well, because right now you don't feel like just using, you need to use your basic attack 3, otherwise you're not dealing damage with Ellen. Love these changes, and I really hope they can keep gathering, thoughts on characters. Can't wait, for example, to see Yi gear on HoloZero. Probably when we see Yi gear on HoloZero, this means that they are looking forward to some changes on Yi. So this just makes me super excited. I don't play HoloZero anymore, but whenever I play, I have a lot of fun exploring these changes on the character kit. Super cool stuff. Hoyo, keep doing this. I love this, but I still want loadouts. Hoyo, if you're listening to this, please give players loadouts, give some combat UI changes, because here you can also see that there's no changes on the UI when it comes to buffs and other stuffs. I really would love to get, for example, Hormone Punk indicator on this interface. It will be really solid. Training mode updates as well. Really would love to get some training mode, because bosses have some really cool rotations. Hoyo is doing like a really good job when it comes to boss rotations, and like taking some time to learn. If you want to do so, it would be amazing to do this in a training room instead of waiting for a Deadly Assault rotation and playing Deadly Assault over and over again just so you can learn this. Having a training mode where you can just reset or change the settings to your will would be amazing. Please give some upgrade to training rooms. I'm sure players like that enjoy putting some effort in the game, they're going to love these changes. Not priority, that's for sure. I still feel that UI changes are like the top priority, and I still feel that loadouts are the top priority. Training rooms, not so much. So yeah, these are pretty much all my thoughts on the special program, at least what I wanted to break down, right, when it comes to the new agents, new gameplay, and also the future of some characters. These are the things that I really want to talk today. And don't worry, I'll also be working on some pool evaluation videos on the future, both for the whole 2.0, and also I'll be working on, oh that's right, there's also like the drive discs, right, 2 new drive discs. I don't want to extend that video too much. I'm probably going to work on a whole video for these new drive disc sets, don't worry. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and feel free to join my Discord server, link is down in the description, where you can join the community, talk a little bit, and show your pulls. I don't know, just follow the rules over there and you're good. Thank you so much for watching this video. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you in my next video. See ya. Bye bye.